1, 2, 3. Beautiful. Y'all can hear me. Love that for us. Hello, I'm doing pretty good. How we feeling? Okay. I got some water. I got everything we need. Because, yeah, with all this reading, it's good to be hydrated. Reminder, make sure you hydrate. It's important for your body and your brain. Oh, goodness. I'm excited because the moment that we're playing today is really fucking cute. I would actually argue might be one of my favorites. So yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, this is Our Life Beginnings and Always. Grow up with Mr. Cove Holden. All that good jazz. I feel like by this point most people kind of know what the heck is up. But if you don't, there you go. But yeah. So we are loading in. And today is the charity moment, which I'm hyped about. I think the charity moment is a really good one. Also just have some water. I'm like extra tired today. I don't know why. I'm gonna be lucky if I stay awake through my own movie night. Like, I really might put the movie on and fucking knock. But we'll see. It'll be fine. Okay, anyways, let's hop into charity. Cove pushed himself to his feet from where he had been bent down in the sand, stretching out his back and groaning softly. A tired breath slipped past his lips as he wiped his brow, looking out over the shore. It looks great. You stood beside him, joining in the surveying of the sand that almost seemed to sparkle beneath the midday sun. The two of you had been out on the beach since sunrise, cleaning up and down the beach, looking for various debris, and the work had paid off. Using a hand to shield your eyes from the blinding rays, you glanced across the way where the other volunteers from Orca were gathered. They were easily recognizable by the high-vis vests they wore. It looked as though everyone was about ready to wrap things up for the day. Yeah, tell Cove he did great. I feel like this is him so in his fucking element. He did great, Cove. The beach looks better than I've seen it in ages. I couldn't have done it without you. And the other volunteers too, obviously. We did a pretty good job, didn't we? You shared a smile, relieved to soon be able to take a break, but feeling proud of what you had accomplished. Cove placed his hands on his hips, a pleased grin pulling at the corners of his mouth as he admired the work you'd both done. You had begun to realize during your time volunteering for the organization how seriously Cove took his service. It was easy to see that it was something important to him. I think you felt equally as invested and always gave it your best efforts. I think if I did something like that, I would want to give it my fucking all. It was important that the ocean you grew up with was protected. It had always been a big part of your life, and you felt that the least you could do was give back to it in some way. It's been a good year so far. It's crazy to think that it's already time to push the big event. You let out a big breath, thinking of the formal dinner that Orca organized every year. Being a completely fundraising focused event for large donors, it was crucial for the organization's projects in the year to come. You had to be over 18 to attend, so this was your first opportunity to actually see it in person. All you had heard about it so far was that it was a prim and proper occasion, with speeches and everything. You didn't know what else to expect from it, as you weren't a part of the group who planned the evening. Before the big night came around, the volunteers would have to sell the tickets for it, and that's where you'd be helping. I think I'd be curious about the night. It might be fun. I've never been to a professional type party. Cove nodded, though he still seemed reluctant. I just don't feel excited about attending a super formal meal with proper etiquette and stuff, you know? He threw his arms out to the side, making a bit of a show at how ridiculous it seemed to him. I've got sand all over my room and only one nice shirt, and I go barefoot pretty much whenever I can. I'm gonna be so out of place. It's gonna be okay, we'll figure it out. Doing something that fancy will make it fun. How often do we get a chance to dress up nice or eat an expensive meal? Cove chuckled and shook his head at you in amusement. A small beeping noise came from Cove's pant pocket, and he pulled it out and glanced at the screen. Huh? It's the organizers. They've sent a text to the group. Time to call it a day here. Oh, cool. Cove tucked his cell away eagerly, turning to you. Let's head over and drop the trash bags off at the trucks. Then we can drive back and join the ticket team. We've got to be there pretty soon to relieve them. Not Cove sounding all grown up and shit. I love him. I also just feel like it's so fitting that, Ocean Boy cleaning and protecting the ocean. He really is just living up to that nickname for forever. With a stretch of shore this long, the plan was to switch places with the other team who had been pushing the tickets for the fundraising dinner halfway through. It would be a full day of work, but it was Orca's largest event of the year, and all hands were on deck to make sure it was a success. Raise your hand for a high five. Go team. Cove's palm slapped solidly against yours, and he smiled at you crookedly. You collected the trash bags spread along the way together, heading across the beach to hoist them into the trucks before heading off to the next job. The drive back to your neighborhood and making your way to the shopping street was fairly quick, though Cove stressed a little about being late. Luckily, he was able to find a parking spot nice and close to where you needed to be. You jumped out of the car and quickly went towards where you knew the group would be. Finally, reaching the stall that was set up to sell tickets, you stopped for a moment to catch your breath. That was quite the flurry of activity. Yeah, that's exactly what it is, Hunter. I think we learned about it back at the beginning of step 3. Though I could be wrong. But yeah, it's fairly new that we're talking about. It would be your job for the rest of the afternoon to help sell tickets for the fundraising dinner, and looking around the street, you saw that there were plenty of potential buyers out today. That would hopefully help to move the tickets along. The stall itself was simple, a portable table with a few plush sea animals as decorations and a banner stuck across the front. There were 2 volunteers who were already packing up and getting ready to head off to the beach. They gave both of you a friendly smile as you arrived. "Hey Cove, Blake, how'd things go at the beach?" "It was good. The place is looking great." "He's such a proud boy, I loved him." "Look at him, he's beaming." "We're lucky to get a 2-for-1 when it comes to you guys." "Yeah, me and Cove are kind of a package deal." Cove cleared his throat awkwardly from beside you, and you noticed his cheeks flushing pink. "Here we go again." "They're not wrong. We're a package deal." "That's right, that's us. What do you mean? I'm proud of that shit." "We're joined at the hips, some might say." The volunteers chuckled and packed up the last of their stuff, and Cove seemed to relax a little more. The volunteers made room for you and Cove behind the table, while they circled around to the front of it. "Thanks for coming in for a shift. We'd better make this quick so we can head off to the next place." "Yeah, fine." You nodded and gave a small smile to show that you were listening. One of the volunteers handed you a clipboard with all the details needed to sell tickets, while the other tossed a set of keys to Cove, which he caught with ease. "Those are for the money box and supply kit. Make sure to keep them on you at all times." Aside from handling the cash for the tickets, there's also a form on the clipboard for the guests to fill in their info. That way we know how many tickets we've sold and who will be attending the event. There's a small script beneath that if you get stuck for what to say, and that's about it. Pretty simple, huh? Uh-huh, I think we've got this. Satisfied that you knew what you were doing, the volunteers said their goodbyes and started walking away, leaving you and Cove to manage the stall alone. The keys jingled in his hand as Cove waved them off before he stuffed them into the pocket of his pants for safekeeping. "Bye, have fun!" Once the volunteers were out of sight, Cove dropped down into a chair behind the counter with a sigh. "We made it here just in time. It's cool we traded places with nothing happening. They might have been late getting to cleanup duty." He leaned back in his seat, getting fully comfortable in the space, and gave you a small smile. I mean, we could take the other seat. I don't know if standing is necessary for this kind of thing." Water. Sure, you took the other seat. Why not? It was just a simple plastic chair that squeaked when you sat on it, but it gave you a good view of the street. We've got things under control. We got this, Cove. Look at how well we did with the beach cleanup. I'm sure this will be a piece of cake." Cove grinned wider, his gaze pleased as he smiled at you. "I like the way you think." Cove rummaged around the station a little, picking up a stuffed toy orca and holding it up in front of his face. You had to admit that it was pretty cute, with its big, bulging eyes and oversized flippers. Setting it back down on top of the table, Cove moved on to check out the rest of the stall, finding a cooler stashed beneath the table. When he pulled it out and opened the lid, you could see that it was filled with half-melted ice cubes and about half a dozen bottles of water. Grabbing one of the plastic bottles, he unscrewed the cap and took a long drink. He watched the condensation running along the side and onto his fingers. "Do you want one?" Cove set his water on his side of the table before pulling out another, holding it out towards you. Sure, why not? Gotta make sure you're hydrating. Yeah, you accepted the water bottle. Because I imagine even bringing your own, they were out like all early morning to now out at the beach. So I imagine having water at this point either would have been gone from drinking at all or would be kind of warm from sitting in the sun all day. So yeah, accept the water bottle. Gotta be hydrated out here. Thanks. After opening it up, you took a drink and let out a satisfied sigh. You hadn't realized how thirsty you had been, and it was always good to stay hydrated. The two of you got settled in easily, and you took the chance to look over the paperwork on the clipboard. Cove joined you, leaning over your shoulder to get a better look. "Seems like pretty standard stuff," he muttered, and you nodded quietly. It had general info about the event and the work you needed to do at the stall, as well as the amount of tickets sold thus far and the number remaining. Cove tapped a finger on the counter as he read quietly over the notes, muttering a few things now and then that you didn't fully hear. He seemed content to be there, and you were sure that the afternoon would pass by quickly. When he glanced out towards the crowd and made a small sound, you followed his line of sight to see that a potential supporter was on their way over to the booth. Psych yourself up. Hell yeah, let's go. Try and channel like your inner Terry or something. I feel like Terry would be good at this. This could be your first ticket sale of the day. You had to give it all you had to make sure the event was a success. "Hi, how are you doing today?" Time passed as the two of you manned the stall, and as people approached, your sales pitch would either have them asking for a ticket or two, or heading off and mumbling maybe next time. All in all, you managed to sell a decent amount of tickets, and you could tell that Cove was happy with the outcome. As the afternoon drifted along, 6 p.m. arrived, time to pack everything up and head home for the evening. Your work with Orca was far from over, but right now there was only one thing left to focus on: attending the actual event. The days continued on in a normal flow, and before long, the night of the Orca fundraising dinner was upon you. It was early evening, and you were in your room getting ready as the minutes ticked closer and closer towards the time you needed to leave. Want some privacy, so you had locked yourself away on your own. I think that would be. I don't think I'd want people. It was kind of peaceful not having anyone else around to rush you. You knew you had to get going before it was too late, but at least this way you could hear yourself think. The event had strict guidelines, and you wouldn't be let in unless you were dressed to code. That meant having to find a truly professional outfit, but one that you were also happy with. Honestly, now that I found my right fancy, I'm happy when I get a chance to dress up. So, you were happy to have a chance to dress fancy. There were a couple of outfits that didn't get nearly as much use as you would have liked, and now was the time to show them off. You smiled as you picked your way through the items, your excitement shining bright. Taking a deep breath to refocus yourself, you looked over the options one last time. It was time to decide on an outfit, and quick. Definitely going the button-down shirt and pants. Standing in front of your mirror, you quietly assessed your outfit. Thought about adding an accessory or two could be fun. Let's see. It needed a little something extra to finish it all off. Rummaging through the rest of your wardrobe, you picked out what you needed to complete your outfit. Give me a tie, please. Standing in front of the mirror, you looped the tie around itself a couple of times before pulling it tightly and securing it in place. And do I want anything else? And probably a belt. You slipped a belt around your waist and fastened the buckle, nodding at your reflection in approval. I feel like for me, that'd probably be everything. Because you don't want to overdo it. Having too much going on can be a lot. Better to keep it simple. And that was everything. And with that, you were ready to go. Let's go, buddies! Finally, you were dressed. It had all come together. Cove sent through a text saying he was heading to the car and would see you in a bit. You carefully headed down the stairs and into the living room, where your moms were waiting for your appearance. I love my moms. Look at them. As you entered, they both stood from the couch and came over to you, smiling broadly. You look so wonderful, Blake. And very mature, too. Nice work, kid. They continued to coo and fuss over you until you managed to brush them off. Ma took Mom by the arm and held her close, the two of them admiring you proudly. I love my family. Look at them. They're so cute. I think I'd just say thank you, be polite. It felt a little strange to have everyone's attention on you, but you liked it nonetheless. Liz smiled at you from where she stood, her expression soft. Ma came in to give you one last hug, and before you knew it, another pair of arms was wrapped around you, and then a third. Both Mom and Liz giggled as they hugged you tight. We hope you have so much fun tonight. We won't wait up for you. Stay out as long as you need. You're old enough now. With a last wave goodbye, you left your family and approached the front door. It was time. Yes, very sweet and cute. And the highlight messages is great. It definitely does help. I will say I will try and still see your message even if it's not highlighted. Like, don't feel the need to use all of your bits or whatever the heck they're called. Because at some point I do want to go in and try and add in some more custom perks and stuff. I have to brainstorm some ideas though. Stepping out into the night, You closed the door behind you gently and looked out across the street. Cove was standing there in the street. His eyes met yours immediately, as if he had been watching your house for the moment you would come out. He smiled bashfully. Hey, Blake. Oh, he's so sweet. I love him. Hey, I hope you're ready to do this. He took the chance to check over his outfit as he walked across the way to meet you. It was formal for sure, though it didn't feel overly posh. It made sense for him and was honestly a sight for sore eyes. He was always beautiful to you. He is so handsome. Cove be cleaning up, though. I love him. He looked you over as well, a subtle blush creeping over his face as he quickly cleared his throat and averted his gaze. You... He seemed to be struggling to find something to say, rubbing at the exposed part of his arm awkwardly. Thank you for coming with me and for dressing really nicely for this. Your outfit, it's good. He's so cute. I love watching him try and compliment us. He's so awkward. He's just so awkward and it makes him way more sweet. Like, I love him. Look at his face. Better than good, really. Great, I guess? Something else? He doesn't know what he's doing. So, yeah. Your look is very nice too. Compliment him back. He looks good. You glanced over him from head to toe, noting that his shirt, pants, and shoes were all shiny and new. Very nice indeed. He ducked his head a little to hide his expression, but you didn't need to see it to know he was pleased that you had said so. Thanks. Then he shook his head, glanced back towards the garage, and, throwing a thumb over his shoulder, spoke. We should probably get going. Wouldn't want to be late to such a grown-up event, right? Yeah, let's go. You headed over to Cove's car together, hopping in and strapping on your seatbelts. You were on your way. Water. Thirsty. We're on our way, buddies! The event was being held at a place that you had never been to before. You brought up the location on your phone to help Cove navigate there. It took some time to find the right address, and once there you were met with the task of finding a parking spot. Though you were on time, it seemed like everyone else had already showed up and claimed the spaces. Eventually, you found a suitable place before realizing that it required payment. Cove covered the amount, taking a ticket from the machine and leaving it on the dashboard of the car. Despite the small holdup, you managed to ultimately make it to the event and confirm you were on the guest list before being shown into the dining area. Oh, it's so pretty! Hold on, wait a minute. Hide this for a second. Wait, no, this is pretty. This is really cute. I love them. Very fancy, though. I see why they're like, hey, dress the fuck up for it. I love that. We're being all grown up with Cove. Cove whistled low as he looked around, taking in the extravagance of the room. Chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and the entire place was decked out with beautiful oceanics displays. I love them. Look at him, he's so in awe of this place. This also just, like, I know dressing up isn't Cove's thing, but, like, look at the fishies. This still feels Cove to me. Just like a rarer version of Cove. You were stunned yourself. It was extremely high class, even more so than you had already expected. It is so nice. This place is gorgeous. What do you mean? You had to be impressed by the work that had gone into making everything look this lovely, and how everyone had dressed up in their best outfits for the night. Seeing Cove smile as he took in the sights made you think he must be feeling the same way. The sound of your names being called out echoed over the din in the room. When you looked around, you recognized a couple of the organization leaders looking your way. I love him, he's such a happy boy. They approached you both in greeting, giving a welcoming smile and a hello. Cove, Blake, we're glad to see you could make it, especially after all the hard work you've done to help make this night happen. Definitely, I wasn't gonna miss it. Hi. It was nice to see some familiar faces and to feel so accepted here. Well, thank you for being a part of the team. You're always welcome to help us out with activities whenever they come up. Thank you. Cove shrugged then, eyes darting around the place with an awkward look. I guess we should talk to more people. There isn't much else to do at an event like this. You found your way into groups of people who were standing around chatting while some light music played in the background. Servers with large silver trays were gliding between the guests, offering drinks and canapes. Cove was clearly hesitant to actually approach the people, but was able to respond when various people greeted him first. He doesn't know how to start it. He's like, if you say hi to me, I'll say hi back, but like, don't make me say hi first, okay? You were enjoying talking to so many different people, both guests and members of the organization alike, and found yourself enjoying the company. The sound of a microphone crackling came from the podium at the other end of the room. Someone who you assumed must be the host for the evening was asking everyone to sit down in preparation for the meal and speeches. You and Cove looked for your table, finding it easily enough by the little name cards that were placed delicately beside the napkins. A few others joined you at the table, though they weren't anyone that you recognized. The host was still speaking as people were settling, starting off the speeches by giving a welcome to everyone attending. She went on to provide some more information about Orca, which you supposed was for the guests who weren't a part of the organization, and the purpose of the fundraiser tonight. Orca's goals, as she explained it, were to aid in the conservation and restoration of oceans and beaches. There were many people who had helped to make the group as successful as it was. When she read off a list of several volunteers who worked on making the event happen, Cove's name was one of the first to come up. Ah! His cheeks flushed with shy pride at that. Look at my guy go! This is my dude! I love him! Go, Cove! He's like, not them mentioning me by name, stop. Your name then came up a little further down the list. You were smiling from ear to ear at the mention. Look at us go! Aww! As she continued on to thank the large donors for the event, you checked over at Cove. He was still grinning happily to himself and tapping his fingers over the tops of his knees, pretty pleased to have been mentioned by name. He is beaming with pride right now. I love him so much. Definitely excited for him. He had worked so hard to make this event happen. It was the least that he deserved. While the host continued speaking, multiple servers dressed in black were setting the first course of the menu in front of the guests. One of the servers set down a plate in front of you, and you thanked them quietly before looking over the dish with interest. You recognized the dish as a simple Caesar salad. The host quickly wrapped up the end of her speech, thanking everyone once more before inviting you all to begin your meal. Anyone who had included a special dietary note when signing up for the event received a vegan or vegetarian version, and there were also small baskets of bread set around the table. Definitely salad and bread. Who are we kidding? I want both. Give me all the food. Give me all the stuffs. Yeah, ate both the salad and the bread. Cove wolfed down his salad before munching into a breadstick, quickly devouring that as well. I hope the next part comes out soon and is bigger. You could hear him mumbling to himself as he reached over for another piece of bread. He glanced around the table, and you followed his line of sight with curiosity, noting that everyone else was still eating the salad. Stopping his hand mid-air, he quickly pulled back and rested it on his lap without taking another breadstick after all. It was clear that he was starting to feel unsure of himself, and he looked a little out of place here. He folded his arms and turned away from them to you. Hey, did you like the salad? I'm gonna be with him on this one. It was too small. I don't want him to feel alone. I'm still pretty hungry. Yeah, me too. His gaze remained purposely tunneled on you, as if he was trying not to even think about what the rest of the table might be doing. Not discreetly flipped the other guests off. I don't think that's necessary. Goddamn. That's intense. Absolutely picked up a breadstick and gave it to Cove. Let this boy eat as much bread as he wants. I don't care. And if anybody has a problem, then they can fight me. He deserves more bread. It's okay. Oh, thank you. Cove spoke gently as he took the bread from your hand, looking choked up by your reassurance. He munched away on it happily, seeming much more at ease. There we go. This is supposed to be a good night, not being stressy over bread. Pat in the hand is so cute too. Yeah, if I could have done both, I would have. But just watching him be reluctant for more bread, I'm like, nah, you eat as much bread as you want. I promise, you're fine. It wasn't much longer until the main course was arriving, and the various chicken, steak, and veggie dishes were being served throughout the room. An array of scents wafted through the room, making your mouth water. Absolutely, I would have chosen the steak. I always want steak. It was nice that you'd been given the option of how you liked your steak cooked, and the meal on the plate in front of you seemed perfectly to your taste. Cove had gone for the steak, and once he started to dig in, he was completely absorbed by his meal. We're not gonna mess with poor Cove. Let him eat. Yeah, you focused on your own food. Let him eat. He was already insecure earlier. We're gonna let him eat in peace. It was going to be a full evening, so you wanted to try eating something while you could. Dinner eventually ended, and last of all was dessert, a lemon sorbet that had been partially dyed blue. The mix of white with bold streaks of blue made the little scoop look like a ball of roaring ocean waves. The effect was very pretty, but the serving size was small. Perhaps it was the price to pay for artsy. You turned to Cove to find him pouting a little at the size of it. Digging into the dessert, It took him only a few bites to polish it off. Again, the other people around the table had barely even begun eating. An unimpressed air settled over him as he sat back in his chair, sipping at his water unhappily. We can get more dessert later. Absolutely. We'll go get ice cream or something, dude. It's gonna be fine. We'll figure it out. Yeah, we'll get more later. You gave him an encouraging smile. He looked up at you sheepishly, embarrassed to have been caught sulking over such a thing. He fumbled for a defense. It was just really good. That's all. And now it's gone. But I'm okay. I just want him to be okay, be happy. I want Cove to have whatever he wants. With a slight grin, he shrugged to show that he was really fine. You want a bite of mine? We've been sharing food with him for a fucking decade at this point. Let's go. You want a bite? You scooped up a spoonful of your sorbet and offered it to him, holding a hand beneath it to avoid any drips. His eyes widened as he eyed the dessert hungrily, surprised by the offer. Recovering quickly, he leaned forward over the table, lifting out of the chair a little as he ate the treat from your spoon. As he sat back, humming happily with his mouth full, you couldn't help but smile at the sight. Him's so cute. He swallowed the faux ocean and let out a satisfied sigh. Even though it wasn't that much more, the simple fact that he had gotten more hit the spot. Thanks, Blake. You're welcome. You thought back on the way he used to be so terrified of sampling food that was yours, and now he hardly batted an eye. We've been sharing food with him for forever. I love him. He's just happy he got a little bit more. I love him so fucking much. My whole heart, he's so cute. This is such a good moment. It was always amazing when you were struck with how he'd grown and how he'd stayed the same. Another person from Orca got up on stage to make a speech as everyone was nearing the end of their meal. They spoke mostly about the individual projects that the organization was working on and their plans for the near future, as well as encouraging anyone who was interested to consider volunteering. Cove bent forward over the table with his chin balanced on a hand, listening attentively to the words. As they came to a conclusion, and everyone gave them a round of applause, Cove caught your eye and smiled. You wondered what would happen now. And then the lights dimmed. A couple of spotlights came on, projecting a water light effect around the room. The guests gushed over the ambiance, and you looked around with wide eyes at the ripples on the walls. The DJ that had previously been playing some soft mood music in the background announced that the floor was open for dancing, slowly turning the volume up so it drifted through the space. When you glanced at Cove, his eyebrows had shot up, and he mumbled quietly. I didn't know there would be dancing. I guess it makes sense now that I think about it. He gave an awkward laugh as you both watched as people rose from their seats. It was clear now that many of the donors were couples. A small crowd had started to form on the dance floor, and the DJ played a romantic song to get everyone started off. Cove let his gaze float over the small sea of guests, and he seemed lost in thought. A serious expression had settled on his face, making his eyebrows dip. Slowly, he turned to you, though there was something cautious in his approach. Would you want to dance with me? I'd love to. I'm always gonna dance. Let me dance with Cove right the fuck now. Shut the fuck up. His face lit up, You could tell even beneath the dim light. He nodded firmly as he rose from his seat, though you noticed his hands shaking at his sides. Him's so nervy, but he's excited. It's so fucking cute. Stop it. You walked out onto the floor together, hesitating a little when you turned and stood face to face. Cove had a hard time meeting your eyes, but he lifted a hand for you to take, unsure of what else he was meant to do. You accepted his hand easily and gave him an encouraging smile. It took some doing, but amidst your nervous laughter, you managed to find a comfortable enough position and set a rhythm to the music. It was quite nice after that. Every time your eyes met Cove's, he would look away quickly, but he seemed to be enjoying the dance nonetheless. Eventually, he felt comfortable enough to speak. A lot has happened, huh? You nodded faintly. You weren't sure if he meant just today, this summer, or your entire time knowing each other. But it didn't really matter. It was true either way. Thinking back on the years that you and Cove had been neighbors, it was difficult to even try to reflect on it all at once. I'm glad we ended up here. He gave you a soft look and you beamed, knowing that could also mean many things. But from his tone, you were certain he didn't only mean here at this event. It was more than that. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. Stop, they're so cute. I love them. The party eventually started to wind down, and at last it came to an end. When the main lights turned on, you blinked against the brightness of them, making sure you still had Cove in your sights. One final speaker came up to the podium on stage, thanking all the guests for coming and wishing everyone a good night. It was bittersweet to see it come to a close. Your time with Cove here was precious. At least the memories could be brought with you. Giving the space one more look, you walked together with Cove out to the parking lot. The other guests were doing the same, so you got stuck in a bit of a crowd. Though Cove was so tall, you could always see him, and it was easy enough to not get separated. The parking lot itself was quite big, and even more noticeable now with fewer cars blocking the view. It took a little while to actually locate Cove's car across its expanse. Eventually, you found it, and the two of you bundled inside the vehicle and buckled up. The trip home was quiet as you both silently reflected back on the experience. The event had been the biggest night of the year for Orca, and now it was all over just like that. Outside your window, the surroundings soon became familiar, and you found yourselves back in your neighborhood. Cove pulled the car into his driveway and put it in park before letting out a relieved breath. Home sweet home. Yeah. After climbing out of the car, you walked slowly down to the road, Cove coming over to stand beside you. You stopped in the middle of the street, right between your house and his, and turned to him, finding him in the process of opening his mouth to speak. Cove has more words to say. Water. Strangely, he clamped his lips together as though he had suddenly thought better of it. Probably just a good night, I think. Yeah, good night, Cove. You gave him a small smile as you stood together on the sidewalk, under the light streaming through the windows all around. absolutely stepped in for a hug. We always hug Cove in this house. You went forward and wrapped your arms around him, and he returned the gesture, squeezing tight. Night, Blake. With a last wispy smile, he left towards his front door. Figuring you shouldn't linger in the street for much longer, you crossed the remainder of the road and did the same. When you reached your house, you pulled out your keys and stuck them in the door, trying your best to be silent about it. Opening the door a crack, you turned back and looked at Cove from over your shoulder. Your eyebrows lifted in surprise to see he was doing the same, holding his front door open, but waiting for you to go inside before he did. You shared an amused smile before you both stepped into your own houses, locking the door behind you. It was quite late, so everyone else was already asleep. As quiet as a mouse, you tiptoed up to your bedroom and changed out of your formal clothes into your pajamas. No problem, have a good one, Hunter. See you later. Now that you were finally home, you were exhausted. You brushed your teeth and got ready for bed in darkness before crawling under the covers and letting out a heavy breath. It was still strange to think about how that was it. The build-up to the event had felt like so much. Now it was completely behind you. Your mind was busy with rapid yet muddled thoughts as you faded closer and closer to sleep. As unconsciousness creeped up on you, you felt more content. It was a big deal, but there would be more in the future. You could accept what it had been, and you could dream about what you'd get to experience next. And then you were taken away from dreams right back into reality by a sound. Your eyebrows pinched together, fully unprepared to be a part of the waking world again. The day was over, and it had been an eventful one. But you heard another noise. It was tapping. Your eyes flew open. The window. There was a tapping that came from your window. Cove Holden. Slowly force yourself to get up. It's Cove. I'm gonna get up for his bitch ass, even if it's the middle of the night and I'm fucking tired. You pried yourself out of bed. Your blanket was flung back. You rolled and then sank to the floor. You froze for a second there to let your half-asleep brain process the fact you were mostly on your feet now. There was another tap at the window. You shuffled towards the window, something akin to a zombie. Blearily, you opened the window, and there was Cove. You blinked at him. You had not been surprised to find Cove awkwardly crouched on your window ledge. However, you were taken aback to see that he was a little overdressed. Cove hadn't changed out of his formal clothes. You also noticed that he was perched clumsily. You didn't know if it was because he was trying to keep his fancy clothes clean or if he felt weird about something. His body was too stiff and awkward. Even given that Cove was normally all thumbs, he looked off balance, significantly more than usual. Cove smiled sheepishly. Hi, Blake. Hi, buddy, what's up? Not that it's nice to see you, Romeo. Hi. You moved aside and let him climb inside. He cautiously stepped down by stretching his legs over. Strangely, he didn't use his hands for support. It was clear to you now. He was holding something. What you got there, Cove? What's going on? Okay. When he was safely on his feet, he briefly checked out his clothes, twisting around to see the back of his pants. He caught you looking and shrugged. I did go home after the event, but I knew I wasn't going to be able to settle down, so I just walked back out. I needed fresh air and time away from everything. He paused for a moment and raised his clasped together hands where you could see them. But then something happened, and, well, so, I have something I want to show you. Cove grinned like a child and gently unfurled his fingers, not being able to keep you in suspense for even a minute. Carefully sitting inside was a tiny yellow light. It blinked off and then on again, a firefly. Delicately, he moved his hand closer so you could see the creature better. They're back. He closed his eyes, his smile now faintly illuminated by his insect companion. Remember the first time I caught one? I always will. I could barely manage anything 'cause of that neon pink cast I was stuck with all summer. You were still stunned by what was happening, but couldn't help snickering when Cove did. It was thanks to you that I finally held a firefly in my own hand. I was happy to. Honestly, I didn't think I'd see them this year. I don't know why. It's just they were kind of late, and I guess I've been worrying about a lot of stuff lately. You could tell that the firefly genuinely lifted his spirits. He seemed at peace, and he wanted to share that with you. The fact that his first thought after discovering the fireflies was to come over and celebrate the joy with you made you suddenly feel very cherished. Cove opened his eyes, but he looked away, not meeting yours. It's really nice, I think. Even if the fireflies disappear for a while, it doesn't mean they're really gone. They'll come back. I can see them again. Smile at him. He's so cute. I love him. Hold on, just look at him for a second with his little firefly in hand. He's such a happy guy. I love him. Protect my ocean boy for forever. And then you looked at the firefly keenly. There was definitely something poetic about them. You felt a warmth in your heart. Cove looked at your face, his smile now fragile. It makes me think about the two of us. We're together, then we say goodbye, and then we're together again, day after day, year after year, and even if our time apart gets longer, that doesn't make it forever. Blake, I'll always be there whenever you want to see me. Aww. Cove. I'll always be there for you too. I want to hug him, but what about the firefly? Can we hug him carefully, maybe? You stepped closer and grabbed Cove into a hug. He made a squeaking sound as he tried to move his hands out of the way, but then laughed when the firefly flew off. He didn't seem to mind the bug's escape too much. Cove chuckled shyly and then hugged you back, his arms wrapped around you tightly, reaffirming that he'd always be there for you. Cove looked at you, affection plain in his face. Hey, do you want to go out to the hill? The fireflies are still there. Yeah. Cove brightened. He was practically bouncing at the thought of a secret excursion before he suddenly became bashful. So how should we leave? We could just try the door, but we don't have to do the window thing. But maybe that'd bother your family? You both chuckled at how awkward it would be if your moms, or worse, Liz, saw you going on a midnight firefly catching trip. You'd be sure to avoid that. Leave out your window. Go with him. Let's go through the window." Cove nodded in understanding. You grabbed some shoes and readied yourself for an adventure. You were glad that there was no way you'd run into another soul outside. Cove would be way overdressed and you were still in your jammies. You let Cove go first. He stepped back onto the ledge as you carefully followed. He shuffled along and soon you reached the garage. You planned to use the fence from there to reach the ground. Cove shakily climbed down to the fence and held it tightly with a death grip. He hesitated for a moment and then let himself fall to the ground. He leaned against the fence and projected hushed words up to where you were waiting. "Do you want help?" No, I got this. It'll be fine." You weren't exactly an expert at scaling buildings, still, you managed. The fence was rough on your hands, but it provided enough purchase for you to lower yourself to the ground. Cove gave you an encouraging smile, but neither of you risked speaking yet. You briskly snuck behind the house and up to the old white poppy hill. And Cove was right. The entire hill was lit up, insects twinkling here and there with their pale yellow light. Cove let out a contented sigh, finally able to relax in full. He strode further up the hill to better enjoy the view. You walked along as well, letting yourself be surrounded by the twinkling display. Then, without warning, Cove plopped onto his back. He paid no mind to smacking his formal attire into the grass. He put an arm under his head and stretched the rest of his limbs out. He was clearly getting quite comfortable in the dirt there. "Lay down in the grass with him, right now." You sat down first and then fell back. You could see the stars when you looked up at the night sky. "I wonder if Dad will be mad about the grass stains." "I doubt it." He tugged at the collar of his shirt. He didn't sound concerned, just idly curious. "Maybe you should figure out how to clean it before he finds out." His smile bent a little, and it went silent between you. The only sounds were the rustling of bugs in the breeze and the faraway crashes of waves on the sea. Continue to watch them. This is just nice and peaceful." It was easy to be swept away by the atmosphere. Fireflies and stars all glowing in the night, and white poppies glittering by their light. The view brought back precious childhood memories. Both of you were determined to take in as much as you could. You smiled with contentment as the fireflies danced. The hour grew late and the fireflies mostly dispersed until only a few stragglers remained. Then even they blinked out of sight, leaving you alone with Cove in your thoughts. It felt as though this was a night that would never end, but you knew it would have to all too soon. You were only grateful to have been a part of it. These were moments to treasure, and you already knew you'd be remembering them for a very long time. I love the charity moment so fucking much. That shit was so sweet. I love him. Did I not save? Tell me I didn't. I think I goofed. I think I goofed real hard. So, what I'm gonna be doing now is going back through my own stream and repicking the choices that I made. But on that note, I will see y'all around later. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. I hope you have a good Saturday. I will see y'all on Sunday for Superhero Sunday. And on that note, I'm gonna go fix fix my goof. And as always, y'all, take care of yourselves, be kind to yourselves. It's hard being a person, you're doing the best you can. I am proud of you. And don't forget to live a life that pisses off a bigot. Bye, y'all.